Kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kurt Angle, yeah. Why, Triple H? You son of a why? Tell me why. And Tony Khan, this is also on you.
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it.
Wow. It's been kind of a slow week in terms of professional wrestling. I'm going to be honest, man. A pretty relatively slow week in terms of wrestling, man. Yeah, we just came off of course, WrestlePalooza and All Out. And I'm going to be honest, man. I don't feel any excitement for wrestling. I'm being honest. I really have no excitement about what's going on in wrestling. Everybody's talking about the NXT TNA crossover. I don't care. Everybody's talking about what's going on over in WWE coming off of WrestlePalooza. Honestly, I could care less. I watched WrestlePalooza. Not a bad show. I talked about it on last week's show. It was a subpar show. And ironically, ESPN, their new television partner, has graded the show as C. And a lot of fans were all up in arms and shocked about what ESPN graded WrestlePalooza, which I don't know why fans are so up in arms about the grade that ESPN gave them. I mean, dude, what did you expect? The show was not as what WWE called it out to be, or not what WWE promoted the show to be. WWE, at the end of the day, overhyped WrestlePalooza for what it was. All Out, not a bad show, but I could care less about what's going on the AEW front. Wrestling seems kind of in a lull right now. I'm going to be honest. Wrestling seems kind of in a lull. But we got a wrestling podcast to talk about, and of course, it is episode 22 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. If you guys are watching on the WrestleHavoc channel, I thank you guys so much. If you guys are watching on WNN platforms on the Facebook page and YouTube channel, I thank you guys so much for watching as well. But before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys want to check out some content on the WrestleHavoc channel for you viewers watching on the WrestleHavoc channel, check out my recent video on WWE fumbling their ESPN debut. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the wrestling talk, even though wrestling, again, as I've stated right at the top of this show, seems kind of in a lull right now. But one of the big stories this week was, of course, ESPN's grade for WrestlePalooza. Now, why is this such a big deal? I have no idea. Well, I do have an idea, but knowing wrestling fans, they are what they are. In my opinion, wrestling fans are one of the worst types of fan bases you could possibly think of. Like, everybody talks about Star Wars fans, but let's be real with ourselves. Wrestling fans are at like the creme de la creme of just like the embodiment of just dumb idiots on the internet. But ESPN, of course, hosted their very first PLE for WWE, that being WWE WrestlePalooza in Indianapolis. And a lot of people were very mixed on the show. Lots of people were very, very, very mixed on the show. Because if you are having a first show on ESPN, you would honestly think that WWE was going to knock it out of the park and really give you an amazing show. But I'm going to be honest, me watching the show was not bad by any stretch of the means. By any stretch of the imagination, WrestlePalooza was not a bad show. It just wasn't. It was not a bad show whatsoever. My problem with WrestlePalooza was the fact that the show was overhyped to hell. And I talked about this in my recent video that I uploaded on my channel. The link will be in the description below. But WWE, of course, if you're on ESPN, ESPN is going to promote the hell out of you. I've never seen someone promote WWE more than I did ESPN. So kudos to ESPN because they know the art of promotion. They just do because, of course, they are the sports network. They always promote the sports that they're on. But what's crazy about WrestlePalooza was WWE, that being Triple H, everybody that was really hyping up this show on shows like First Take. We're all hyping up WrestlePalooza to be this big show, this WrestleMania-esque show, blah, blah, blah. It ended up being your typical WWE premium live event at the end of the day, or pay-per-view. You know, some people call them the pay-per-views, but it's technically a pay-per-view now that you got to pay $30 for it. But at the end of the day, we're in the norm now where we just call them PLEs, premium live events. It was your average WWE premium live event. That's what WrestlePalooza was. It was what you would envision a normal WWE premium live event. That's it. That's all it was. And what's crazy is that this show was announced out of the blue. I believe a month prior, this show actually taking place. This show wasn't even on the WWE calendar. They just announced this show last minute. Because keep in mind, remember, this ESPN deal that's worth billions of dollars was supposed to start next year. But WWE wanted to get a head start because, you know, these people want their money. And I get it. It's a business. It is what it is. But they wanted to start that deal early. So, ironically, they put this show head-to-head against AEW All Out. And AEW actually did the smart move and moved All Out from the 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. start time. I believe they had the 8 p.m. start time to the 3 p.m. start time. It was a smart business move on their end because they knew if they were going to go head-to-head. I mean, it's one thing for you to go head-to-head with an NXT PLE. It's one thing for you to go head-to-head with an NXT PLE. Nobody's going to watch that NXT show, unfortunately. Nobody's going to watch it. Nobody's going to watch that NXT show. Nobody's going to watch that NXT show. Everybody's going to watch the AEW pay-per-view. Everybody is. But in terms of the main roster, that's a different story. The main roster, of course, they're going to take headlines off of that AEW show. So AEW actually did the smart move by having the show start at a 3 p.m. start time. They were smart in doing that. They were really smart in doing that. So what happened there? The buy rate didn't change for All Out. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, the show roughly did around 140,000 buys, which didn't really change AEW to say the least. And WrestlePalooza ended up being a subpar show. It was a C show, as this person graded it to be. And ESPN came out with this rating, or this grade. A journalist by the name of Andreas Hale all of a sudden became the talk of the internet wrestling community. And he wrote, I'm going to read the whole article if you guys are very interested. He stated this, and I quote, "The era of WWE premium live events on ESPN Unlimited kicked off with WrestlePalooza from Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis on Saturday. The seventh singles meeting between John Cena and Brock Lesnar started off the night, and it would be the Beast Incarnate who would dominate and pin his rival Cena in stunning fashion. A new women's champion was crowned as Stephanie Vaquer defeated Io Sky in an excellent showdown. The card also featured the return of former WWE Divas champion AJ Lee after a decade away from the ring. She joined her husband CM Punk in a mixed tag team match against World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins and his wife, Women's IC Champion Becky Lynch. Undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes headlined the event by putting the title on the line in a surprisingly short outing against Drew McIntyre. After each PLE, we assess the quality of each wrestling match based on effective storytelling, in-ring performance, and overall entertainment. We also grade the event as a whole. Did WrestlePalooza, I'm starting to get tongue-tied with the name WrestlePalooza, it's ironic. Did WrestlePalooza deliver on its promise of epic moments? Well, I'm going to give you guys all of the grades for each of the matches that took place at WrestlePalooza, because keep in mind, this PLE was short. It's crazy. Everybody ridicules AEW for their super long pay-per-views, and I'm one of them because I think their pay-per-views are way too long. But WWE, it's crazy. AEW has pay-per-views that have like 13 matches on the main card. WWE has pay-per-views that only have like 5 matches on the card, which on one hand, I understand the quality over quantity, but at the same time, it's starting to upset the fan base very visibly. But if you look at all the grades that he gives each of the matches, there was the women's world title match, Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer. He actually graded this a B+, which honestly, I 100% agree with. I mean, this match was by far the best match of the entire night. In terms of the tag team match between the Usos and the Vision, he gave this match a C, which is hilarious because I honestly just did not care at all about this match whatsoever. He gave the mixed tag team match for CM Punk and AJ Lee taking on Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch AC. Now, that is a gray that I'm going to be honest, I kind of want to disagree on him with. Yes, on one hand, I do get the fact that this match was a little bit too long, but the match did what it needed to do, in my opinion. I think the match did what it needed to do in terms of overall funness, if that makes any sense. The match did what it was supposed to do, and that was, of course, put over AJ Lee, who was the star of the entire match, because, again, it was her first official wrestling match in 10 years. Her first official wrestling match in 10 years. So, honestly, I don't know why he gave it a C, but it is what it is. Me personally, I'd probably would give this at least maybe a B-. At best, a B-. It was not a bad match whatsoever. Then he moved on to the world title match between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. He actually gave this match a C, which, me personally, I'd actually give this a C-. This was kind of a half-assed match, to say the least. I didn't really enjoy this match for what it was, but in my opinion, it was just not. It was not a great main event. And rumor has it that ESPN actually wanted WWE to have this match main event the show, which honestly I think is a bad thing. Because, in my opinion, if there are any two matches that should have main evented this show, it was either Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky or the mixed tag match with Punk and Lee taking on Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Like, if you want to talk about from a business standpoint, you put the mixed tag team match as the main event of this show. You put the mixed tag team match as the main event of this show. It just makes total sense for you to do that. But WWE did not do that because, again, they thought they have to listen to ESPN. They want a world title match. Fine. Put Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. And honestly, that match felt like more of a Raw match or a SmackDown match. It didn't really feel like a pay-per-view main event that you would pay $30 for. If there was a match that you'd pay $30 for, it probably would be the mixed tag team match. Or if you really want to talk, a wrestling fan's dream, it would have been Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky. Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky was by far the best match out of all 5 matches at WrestlePalooza. Easily. But in my opinion, Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, I mean, he gave it a C. I gave it a C. I'd give it a C-. It was a subpar match. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. He gave the match a C-. I do not blame him either because John Cena versus Brock Lesnar was disappointing. It just was. It was very, 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 very disappointing because I talked about this last week, but the match started off strong in a sense where John Cena in the middle of the match would hit the 3 FUs or the 3 AAs, and then Brock Lesnar, for at least a couple of them, would no-sell him, and then he'd stand back up, and he'd hit 3 back-to-back F5s to the point where he started dominating. And WWE for a short second actually hooked me in the match, but then right as soon as Brock started dominating and actually got the win, that was where WWE unfortunately lost me with this match. And, think about this. After the post-match beatdown, I assume we're probably going to be getting a rematch between the two men. But I stated this in my recent video that I uploaded to my channel. Again, the link will be in the description of this video or of this podcast, of this live stream. After the post-match beatdown, after the match that you saw, do you really want to see a rematch between the two guys? Do you really want to see a rematch between Brock Lesnar and John Cena? There's a whole slew of talent, and John Cena doesn't have a lot of dates left. People need to understand that he only has a couple of dates left. I believe maybe 3 or 4 dates left. I believe 3 dates left. He's gonna 4 actually, 4 or 5. I believe it's 4. He's definitely gonna be he's gonna be in Crown Jewel. He's gonna be a part of Survivor Series. I believe he's gonna be in the Raw MSG in November. And, of course, he's going to have the Saturday Night's main event in December. He only has 4 dates left. 4 dates left. Correct me if I'm wrong. 4 dates left. One of them is already taken with AJ Styles. A lot of people are talking about possibly Dominic Mysterio facing off against John Cena, which personally, as much as I would see that match, it would have been a match that I would have seen earlier on in his retirement tour. But it wouldn't have made any sense considering he was a heel earlier on in his retirement tour. I mean, looking back, and I'm going to talk about this later, and this is actually going to be a really big topic of this episode. We're going to be talking about whether or not John Cena's heel turn was a success or a failure. Dominic Mysterio would have been a great opponent if John Cena was a babyface throughout the entirety of his heel run or his retirement run, and he was not a heel if he was a babyface full on. But still, Dominic Mysterio is in the rumor mill. A lot of people were pointing out to Edge as possibly being an opponent. Meanwhile, these idiots on the internet do not realize that he's under AEW contract, and the only reason why AEW quote unquote wrote him off of television, it didn't really seem like a write-off, but a lot of the reason why Edge is taking a hiatus from AEW is because he's filming Percy Jackson, the new season of Percy Jackson. That's the reason why. He's not going back to WWE. In a perfect world, I would love to see Adam Copeland and John Cena, but Adam Copeland is still under AEW contract, so he's not going to do that. But Brock Lesnar and John Cena, I mean, I 100% agree with the C rating. 100% agree with the C rating. I mean, it was just a match that was just pretty disappointing and fell short of expectations, which is exactly what Andreas Hale stated in his closing argument when he gave WrestlePalooza a final grade of a C. Now, y'all need to understand, a C is not bad. It's in the 70 range. You know, if it's like in the 68, 69 part, it'd probably be a D+. But he gave this a C. A C is not bad. It's not amazing. It's not great. It's a good grade that shows that, hey, you could do better. It's a grade that means, hey, you could do better. And I think that was what he meant when he gave this whole show a C. But this was his closing argument. The excellent Vaquer and Sky match saved this show from being truly average. It was a phenomenal display inside the scored circle. Everything else was either underwhelming, the short Rhodes-McIntyre match, or a setup for a future match of Lesnar dominating Cena. For a card that promised to have epic moments, it fell a little short of expectations. So that was what Andreas Hale graded WrestlePalooza. He graded WrestlePalooza a C. And fans were upset about this. Fans were upset about this. Why? Why? Why were they upset? Why were they upset? Why were they upset? I feel like a lot of these fans that were upset about ESPN, a journalist from ESPN writing for ESPN, was upset that he told the truth. They were upset that he told the truth. That was what happened. They were upset that he gave WrestlePalooza a C. A journalist from ESPN gave WrestlePalooza a C. I know I see some fans on social media clamoring for this journalist to be fired from ESPN, or this journalist should not write for ESPN again because he gave him a C. It's a bad look for WWE. I mean, like, do you know what ESPN is? Do you know what ESPN covers? Do you live in the real world besides just watch or listen or read wrestling news? This goes far beyond the Meltzers, the Sean Ross Sapps, the WrestleVotes, all of those dirt sheets. This is real news we're talking about. This is an actual sports platform, ESPN, giving their thoughts on WrestlePalooza, a journalist giving his opinion on the show. And these people are advocating for this guy to be removed from ESPN. Why? For doing his job. That's why. People can't handle criticism, unfortunately. People can't handle criticism at all. They live in their wrestling bubble. A lot of wrestling fans, unfortunately, do not watch other bits of content besides wrestling. They don't. I always tell wrestling, yo, you tweet too much about wrestling. Go watch The Sopranos. You'll love it. You'll love it. Go watch The Sopranos. I mean, for God's sakes, man, being on social media, dude, it can definitely burn you out. I know because it's happened to me many times. It's happened to me many times where I'm like, you know what, man, let me just watch a movie or watch a good show, you know? But no, we're upset because a journalist gave WrestlePalooza his opinion, his grade of a C. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And these are the same think about this. These are the same fans that always point to tribalism being the problem. Meanwhile, these fans are the real tribalistic ones. Unfortunately, tribalism is going to exist. It doesn't only exist in wrestling, it exists in sports as well, unfortunately. It does. It exists in sports. Look what's going on. Like, I mean, NFL season just started up a couple of weeks ago. Go Birds, by the way. But still, I mean, tribalism is going to exist everywhere. Why are we upset that WrestlePalooza was given a C grade by ESPN or a journalist from ESPN? He's giving his opinion. That's why. He's giving his opinion. And it was a very honest opinion because the show was subpar. The show was subpar, and people need to understand that. It was. The show was overhyped to hell. Triple H is like, you're going to be seeing a lot of surprises. Be aware of a lot of surprises that are going to be taking place at WrestlePalooza. It was just your average WWE PLE. That's it. There was no surprises. What was the surprise? Stephanie McMahon? I was about to say Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie McMahon being involved in the Hall of Fame? Great! The Hall of Fame is next, what is it? Next April. Next April. We got a long ways to go. That was the surprise? That was the surprise? What were the surprises on this show? John Cena dominated. I mean, I can tell you what a surprise was on this show. Brock Lesnar dominating John Cena in the end and abruptly beating him. That was a surprise. I'll tell you that right now. But it was a surprise that was disappointing. That's what it was. It was a surprise that was disappointing. At the end of the day, disappointing. I don't know why fans are so upset. I don't know why fans are so upset. And what's crazy is when it comes to WrestlePalooza, I always ask, like, after what you showed this past Saturday, not yesterday, the Saturday before, what you showed with WrestlePalooza showed that, like it honestly asked me this: what was the point of you wanting to counter program AEW? Because AEW had a pay-per-view that night. They had All Out. And according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, one source with pay-per-view numbers said that All Out did numbers similar to AEW Revolution. That would be around the 135 to 140,000 buys, well ahead of most expectations. This is according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. 135 to 140,000 buys for All Out. You would think that the buy rate for All Out would be worse, probably around the 100,000 mark. Apparently, Dave Meltzer even stated, I think they're going to do a really low buy rate considering the nature of WrestlePalooza, even if they moved the show earlier ahead of time. But no, the show did exactly what a lot of people expected. It did the exact same amount of numbers that a normal AEW pay-per-view would do. 135,000 buys to 140 buys to 140,000 buys. It's not bad. In the pay-per-view business, it's not bad. If you're in the 100,000 mark, it's successful. Now, in terms of like UFC numbers, now I believe ESPN doesn't release the numbers anymore for UFC pay-per-views, but like a crappy UFC pay-per-view does around 200,000 buys. If it's like an uber successful buy rate, it'd be around 1 million buys. But 1 million buys, people need to understand 1 million buys in the pay-per-view business is very hard to come by. Very hard to come by. AEW tends to average around 135 to 140,000 buys per show. That's not bad. That's not bad. What this number shows in terms of AEW is the fact that AEW has consumer loyalty. They have consumer loyalty. Yes, they cater to a small niche audience, but it's a small niche audience that's willing to buy their pay-per-views at a time where pay-per-view is starting to quote-unquote die out. I mean, UFC, up until I believe the end of this year, before they move to Paramount, is still doing pay-per-views. But I mean, after that, pay-per-view is essentially dead. And they're drawing well over 100,000 buys. I mean, that's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. WWE clearly definitely stole headlines with WrestlePalooza, but AEW moving their show earlier, knowing that they cannot, regardless of whether or not the show was good or bad, they were smart enough to move their show. If they had kept their show at the exact same time slot and they went head to head with WrestlePalooza, I honestly believe the buy rate would have been lower. Maybe I'd say 105,000 buys, maybe. And that's just me being nice. I don't think they'd go below 100,000, but maybe that's just me. But this buy rate is not bad. It's not bad at all. So at the end of the day, I feel like the winners were AEW in a sense. And I'm not saying All Out was amazing by any stretch of the means. All Out was your generic AEW pay-per-view. It was not like a grandiose show that a lot of people made it out to be. It was a super long show. And it also begs the question, And a lot of people were actually pointing this into discussion, considering how long, ridiculously long, these AEW pay-per-views are. And I talked about this last week. Do you think it's a good idea for AEW? Do you think it's a really good idea for AEW to permanently move their pay-per-views to a 3 p.m. Eastern start time? Because looking at this buy rate, it's not bad at all. It's not a bad idea. If anything, if they are still going to commit to doing super long pay-per-views, because think about this. Your normal AEW pay-per-view, Eastern time, it would start around 8. It'd start around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And that show would drag on all the way to like midnight, almost 1 in the morning. And they have like 13 matches on that card. Midway through the show, you're already looking at your clock thinking, dude, when is this show going to end? If the show starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time, it's not a bad idea to do it. If the show starts at 3 p.m., your best bet is that the show's probably going to end at 8. And you know what? Are you going to be burnt out? I feel like you're going to be more burnt out if AEW does a show at 8 p.m. rather than doing a show at 3 p.m. You're going to be less burnt out if they do a show at 3 p.m. I'm going to be honest. But it's a question that we all need to ask ourselves. Comment down below. But in terms of the buy rate for All Out, the buy rate for All Out was not bad. And fans were all up in arms about WrestlePalooza being graded to C. And this is another thing that people need to take into consideration. This is another thing that people really need to take into consideration. Bleacher Report. Yes, Bleacher Report is not just an app, wrestling fans. It's not just a streaming app. It's also similar to ESPN in terms of them reviewing sports and all that stuff. It's very similar to ESPN in that category. They also cover wrestling shows. And of course, Bleacher Report used to host AEW pay-per-views. They used to stream those shows. You'd have to pay $50 on Bleacher Report for those AEW pay-per-views. Now they're on HBO Max, but that's another story for another time. But they would give their reviews on AEW pay-per-views or WWE pay-per-views. And they'd give their own grades regarding those shows. So why are we all up in arms over this WrestlePalooza card? It makes no sense. It really does make no sense. All right. Moving on with episode 22 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, September 28th, 2025. I thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. If you guys are watching on WNN platforms, I thank you guys so much. Also, if you guys are watching on the WrestleHavoc channel, I thank you guys so much as well. But let's talk about John Cena and his retirement tour. Of course, a couple of minutes before Raw went on the air, of course, John Cena went on X and he tweeted this out, and I quote, "I do not choose my opponents, but I, even though through tough times, always listen to the fans." At AJStylesOrg, which is his Twitter account or his X account. Are you listening? Better yet, at Triple H, are you listening? Hashtag Cena versus Styles. And before that, that was actually a quote tweet to hashtag Cena versus Styles, hashtag WWE Raw. And then AJ Styles actually replied, "I hear them loud and clear. Let's do it. I'm ready." And then Triple H, of course, chimed in, and they made it official. It's going to be John Cena versus AJ Styles at WWE Crown Jewel on Saturday, October 11th in Perth, Australia. Overall, what are my thoughts on this taking place at Crown Jewel? Honestly, this is a really good match and a perfect match to be one of John Cena's last matches in his career. People need to understand AJ Styles. John Cena and AJ Styles was like, before AJ Styles walked in the door to WWE in 2016, that was like one of the ultimate dream matches that a lot of fans were just fantasizing over. Like, especially in the 2000s, because keep in mind, AJ Styles was in TNA for like 11 years. He was in TNA since the inception of the company in 2002, and he left around late 2013, early 2014, and he left on really bad terms because as the story goes, TNA essentially offered him half of the money that he was already making. And he was like, I'm not going to take that slap to the face. I'm going and I'm leaving. And he didn't immediately go to WWE. I mean, he spent a couple of years in Japan, and that's where he made a name for himself even more. I mean, he was already a made man. But when he went to Japan, he got even more popular. And, of course, he was the leader of Bullet Club. You guys get my drift. And then he came into the WWE, and he had a fantastic... People need to realize this. AJ Styles, if you want to talk about impressive, his first year in WWE, keep in mind, this was during the Vince McMahon era. You would think Vince McMahon would look at somebody like AJ Styles and not push this guy to the moon. Dude, within 9 months of him joining WWE, AJ Styles already beat John Cena. He already beat John Cena not once, but twice. And he won the world title. 9 months into his WWE run. We're talking 2016. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. 9 months into his WWE run, and he already won the world championship. It's crazy. And also, the matches between John Cena and AJ Styles, I mean, are freaking legendary. And I say that because I was in attendance with during one of those matches. Their second match at SummerSlam in Brooklyn. I was there. And they had a banger. That was literally the match that stole the show. Literally the match that stole the show. Hell, my dad was there. I was like literally I was just going into high school. This was August of 2016. My dad was there. My dad was there, and he doesn't watch wrestling. And he even thought that match was insane. I can vividly remember my dad literally telling my mom how good of a match John Cena versus AJ Styles was. That's how good that match was. And my dad doesn't even watch wrestling. And he thought that match was freaking amazing. And of course, their match at the Royal Rumble in 2017, which of course John Cena had to get his win back. But I mean, those years, 2015, 2016, 2017, those 3 years, maybe at least early 2017. So 2015 to 2016 to early 2017, I mean, John Cena from an in-ring standpoint was on another level. Because this was when he was doing the John Cena Open Challenges in 2015. I mean, he had phenomenal matches with guys like Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, who was still working at NXT. I mean, dude, he was doing a lot of stuff, man. From an in-ring standpoint, you guys remember the springboard stunner? It was insane. It was insane. But we're going to be getting a fourth match between John Cena and AJ Styles, and honestly, I couldn't be more excited. A lot of people are saying this match was planned from the get-go. I don't think so. I think this was a match that was kind of thrown together last minute, but who cares? I mean, we're still getting this match regardless. And this is, in terms of John Cena's retirement tour, dude, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better match, and I think we're going to be getting a really good match between John Cena and AJ Styles. But that also begs the question. And this is a major topic that we're going to be talking about on this edition of the show. Was John Cena's retirement tour, since we're nearing the end of his retirement tour, a success or a failure? Was John Cena's retirement tour a success or a failure? It's very complex if you really think about it. Some people will say it's a success, considering, the heel run did its quote-unquote job, which I vastly disagree with. But a lot of people view it a failure. I understand both sides of the spectrum. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. If I were to grade, here we go with the grades once again. If we were to grade John Cena's retirement run throughout the entirety of 2025, I'd probably would give it a C-. I'm being honest. I'd probably would give it a C-, and that's just me being generous. And a lot of that has to do with his heel run. And, if I wasn't so generous, I'd probably give this whole run a D or a D+. The reason why I give it a C- has to do with his heel run. His heel run, in my opinion, and I'm going to say, I don't care who gets mad at me for this. I do not care who gets mad at me for this. John Cena's 2025 heel run has been one of the biggest fumbles that WWE has done in recent memory. And they fumbled a lot throughout the past 20 years. They fumbled a lot of stuff in the past 20 years, but this has to be one of the biggest fumbles that they have done. John Cena's heel run was only done for one reason and one reason only. And that reason was shock factor. They wanted the moment of John Cena turning heel And that's it. They had no follow-up plan of what they wanted to do with John Cena as a heel. They had no plan whatsoever. They had no plan whatsoever. Ariel Helwani, and I mentioned this months back. Ariel Helwani said it best on his show. Seeing John Cena as a heel doesn't feel like John Cena being a heel. It looks like John Cena is playing a heel. That's the best way you're able to cap off John Cena's heel run. It looks like John Cena is playing a heel. You fans betrayed me, blah, blah, blah. He was wearing his exact same attire. And I understand, you get nothing, but still, we got no music, no nothing. If you really wanted to go deep in John Cena as a heel, if you really want to dive deep into John Cena as a heel, as a horrible person, as a bad guy, dude, you strip away the Fruity Pebbles t-shirts, the jorts, the jean shorts, and the sneakers in favor of a suit, because we all know John Cena loves his suits. It would have been perfect, literally perfect, if John Cena just came out in a suit and just acted all heelish and just become Hollywood John Cena, or, it'd kind of be a ripoff of Hollywood Rock, if you get my drift, but something like that. Instead, we just got John Cena playing a bad guy. That's what we got, unfortunately. Now, that is not to say that we got bad things out of it. I thought the match he had with Randy Orton was not bad. Looking back, and it's crazy to think how I defended this, considering their second match at SummerSlam was just so much better than their first. But looking back, the Cody Rhodes and John Cena match was a disaster. Looking back, I actually defended the decision. I actually defended, the idea of John Cena getting the win, because it just made sense. But looking back, the match itself was pretty much a disaster, if you really think about it. At least they redeemed themselves at SummerSlam, but still. The Randy Orton match I mentioned, the R-Truth stuff was really fun. I really enjoyed the R-Truth stuff. It's a shame now that Ron the Truth Killings is back to being just comedic R-Truth. So really, what was the whole point of the We Want Truth movement? You know what I'm saying? What was the point of that? What was the point? But, at the end of the day, his heel run was just vastly disappointing. Vastly disappointing. Really, really, really disappointing, to say the least, unfortunately. Really disappointing. And honestly, if I was WWE and if I were to change history, I would have not let John Cena turn heel at all. I would have just kept John Cena as a babyface, end off. And that, I'm not even mentioning The Rock. And I'm not even mentioning The Rock, because he's another can of worms. Because he literally screwed over WWE Creative. He literally screwed them over, saying, okay, we got the moment of John Cena joining The Rock, joining the final boss, and then he just never shows up. This guy never shows up at all. This guy does not show up. So what was the point? And then you had The Rock go on the Pat McAfee show saying, oh yeah, The Rock's work here is done. But whatever. But then you then see him turning babyface out of nowhere, which, if you look at it from a creative standpoint, it made no sense. But at the same time, we were all kind of relieved, because now we expected John Cena to be a babyface, and he's still a babyface, and he's going to be a babyface right after he retires. Well into when he gets to his retirement match, he's going to be a babyface. But still, his recent run as a babyface, ever since turning babyface, his retirement run has been much better. I will say. It's been way more intriguing. And a large portion as to why it's been more intriguing is because of the fact that we're near the end. We have 4 dates left of John Cena, and that is it. So at the end of the day, what do I think of John Cena's heel run? I think WWE should have never turned this guy heel. They missed they missed the boat years ago, and they never did it because they were afraid that they were going to lose money based off all the money that they were making off of his merch. And they just, I don't know. They should have never turned John Cena heel this year. Never. They only did that for shock value and for the moment. You know how WWE loves promoting its moments. It's like they're valuing moments over storytelling, which is crazy to think, because WWE for years have been advocating to all of the fans that, hey, storytelling is the key of professional wrestling, which I agree. But they've been leaning more to just the moments. And there's really no long-term investment in when it comes to those moments. You know what I'm saying? There's really been no long-term investment at all. And unfortunately, there was no long-term plan in terms of John Cena's heel run. I mean, dude, they flat out had John Cena show up at the Prudential Center and just be like, I'm a good guy now. Great. Going into the match with Cody Rhodes. That's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. But in terms of John Cena, we only have like 4 dates left. Of course, we got the Crown Jewel match with AJ Styles. I definitely assume that John Cena is going to be a part of War Games, like the actual War Games match at Survivor Series. I believe he's going to be doing the Raw show in MSG. And, of course, he's going to be doing his last show, his final match in Boston, Massachusetts for Saturday night's main event. So, yeah, comment down below on what your thoughts are on John Cena's heel run, or not his heel run. Comment down below of what your thoughts are on John Cena's retirement tour. I'd love to know your thoughts, or comment down on the chat. I'd love to know your thoughts on that whole matter. All right, moving on with Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel, of course, if you guys don't know, is actually going to be taking place Saturday, October 11th in Perth, Australia. And the show's going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern time for all of us here in the East Coast, which is crazy. And 5 a.m. Pacific time, which is even worse for all you people over there. But, yeah, we got a couple of matches announced. We got, of course, John Cena versus AJ Styles, which honestly is like the match that everybody wants to see. But we also got the Crown Jewel Championship match, which I'm going to stop right here and say this. I hate the concept of the Crown Jewel Championship. It's such a stupid concept because it's not even an actual championship. It's just a trophy title. That's what it is. It's very similar to what AEW did when they did the first few tournaments for the Owen Hart Cup. That's what, the trophies that all the wrestlers won when they won the Owen Hart Cup tournament, they just won belts that they didn't even utilize. And what was even worse about that was the fact that there was no, whoever won, didn't get a title shot or anything. You know what I'm saying? Which was absolutely ridiculous. Thankfully, they changed that. And unfortunately, with the Continental Classic, it was kind of that way too. Whoever wins the Continental Classic should honestly win a world title shot at a Revolution or something. But those are problems over on the AEW side, which we'll talk about in a future podcast. But the Crown Jewel Championship to me is a stupid concept. I don't like it. Because you have your two world champions facing off against one another, and one of them has to lose. One of them has to lose. Either by pinfall or submission, but if you book it right, whether or not it's regarding shenanigans or not, they're probably going to have Seth Rollins go over. Because you need to establish Seth Rollins as some sort of dominant act. Because right now, he's in a way, the talk of the town. Because of his whole group with The Vision, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, Becky Lynch now being a part of the group. I mean, The Vision is the top heel group in WWE. It's not even the Bloodline, which is crazy to think, but I'm actually happy about that. But we got Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins for the Crown Jewel title. And we got Tiffany Stratton taking on Stephanie Vaquer for the Crown Jewel Championship on the women's side. I mean, this is easily the most predictable match for Crown Jewel. Tiffany Stratton versus Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer 100% is going to go over. There's no bones about it. It's not even a debate. I love Tiffany Stratton. I think she's phenomenal. But I think her title reign has been very forgettable, in my opinion. Very, very, very forgettable. I could care less about what she's doing as the women's champion. And it sucks to say that because I like Tiffany Stratton. She's a phenomenal wrestler. She is amazing at what she does. But with what she's given, unfortunately, they're really doing nothing for Tiffany Stratton. And she's the champion. Stephanie Vaquer, on the other hand, is easily, by far, one of the best women's wrestlers, not only in WWE, but all of pro wrestling. One of the best. If you were to, and I talked about this last week, but if you were to put her in the top 3 of best female wrestlers right now, you'd probably put Stephanie Vaquer, Toni Storm, and who else? Off the top of my head, you just put her alongside Toni Storm because Toni Storm is great. But still, Stephanie Vaquer is a star in the making. She is a star in the making. But yeah, that is the card for WWE Crown Jewel. For WrestleDream is actually going to be taking place the 18th of October. We actually got our first match announced, and that is Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin in a rematch. So that's the card for WrestleDream so far. Couple other things. AJ Styles, from what it looks like, he is making a decision regarding retirement. He was actually interviewed by Tokyo Sports. And I'm actually reading this article from Yahoo Sports' website. In an interview with Tokyo Sports, Styles revealed that he will retire from WWE at some point within the next year. While he did not say a specific date, it will come by the time 2026 ends. He seemed adamant about it, so fans should try to see him soon if they haven't already. AJ Styles stated this, and I quote, "I will definitely retire within the next year," the former WWE champion said. "I don't want the fans to see me as anyone other than AJ Styles. That's the main reason. I've decided to retire before my body can no longer move." So, from what it looks like, AJ Styles is thinking about retirement, and according to his quote, Styles wants him to retire on his own terms, although he could likely continue sticking it out for several years, knowing his physical skills will decline and diminish. What are my thoughts on this? AJ Styles. AJ Styles, I mean, it's no secret, AJ Styles is getting older. He's getting older, but I mean, man, in a couple months, we're going to mark 10 years that AJ Styles has been with WWE. 10 years. 10 years does not feel like 2016. I genuinely believe 2016 is the greatest year of all time. For all of us, at least for people of my generation. 2016 was the best year of all of our lives. But AJ Styles, I mean, 10 years in WWE. Look, at the end of the day, AJ Styles wants to go out on his own terms. I know his contract, I believe, is up around WrestleMania season. I believe in February. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some people are even saying maybe they might extend his contract if, they want to do a last match with AJ Styles of some sort. But we're going to have to wait and see, man. AJ Styles is teasing retirement. And honestly, I mean, AJ is one of the best wrestlers of our generation. One of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler of our generation. At least for the past 20 plus years. He was definitely up there. And keep in mind, he was not even a WWE fabricated wrestler. Not fabricated, but a WWE created wrestler. This guy was already a made man well before he made his jump to WWE. Well before. So AJ Styles, from what it looks like, he's definitely thinking about retirement. And from what it looks like, he would definitely want to retire next year. All right, continuing on with the WrestleHavoc podcast, we're going to be talking about Santino Marella. Santino Marella was in the news talking about TNA possibly being the number 2 promotion. My favorite topic, ladies and gentlemen, my favorite topic. When TNA gets a new TV deal, we are the number 2 promotion. That is what Santino Marella stated on Lucha Libre Online. I'm reading this off of F4W Online. Of course, those are the people of the Wrestling Observer. Current TNA employee and former Intercontinental Champion Santino Marella is talking big about the prospects for TNA if they are able to secure a new TV deal. Santino Marella was on Lucha Libre Online and was asked about the success of the company, October's Bound for Glory pay-per-view, and the run that they are currently on. He stated this, and I quote, "We're going to capitalize on the audience for Bound for Glory, that being their October pay-per-view. We're going to send the message out to the world that we're here. We're knocking on that door. You better look out because once we get that TV deal, we're number 2, man. I know Tony Khan has lots of money. I get it. But the fans speak. The fans dictate who's number 1, number 2, and number 3, not your bank account." I'm going to stop right there. I beg to differ. I beg to differ, unfortunately. TNA head Carlos Silver has talked publicly about wanting to get a new TV deal, with rumors that they have been speaking to with the CW and A&E via their partnerships with WWE. Of course, WWE is number 1. They're so far ahead, and that will never catch it in any lifetime. Number 2 is attainable. Number 2 is really something we can do. If we accomplish that, that's humongous, he continued. He also spoke positively about the experience in TNA, and that when wrestlers get released or leave WWE, he tells them to come to TNA as it will help them fall in love with the business again. Marella also talked about his recent AAA interaction with Mr. Iguana and how he'd love to team with the budding star versus taking him on. the ability to work with his daughter, and more. Okay, so that quote right at the top, I know Tony Khan has lots of money, I get it, but the fans speak. The fans dictate who's number 1, number 2, number 3, not your bank account. I'm sorry, but this is a business, and I know we've been on this show and talked about WWE and their corporate greed, and I will forever stand by that. But at the end of the day, this is also a business, and money does talk. Unfortunately, money does talk. The fans, yes, they dictate. They can dictate who they want is number 1, number 2, number 3. But that, unfortunately, is their opinion. And their opinion is not facts. In my opinion, at least. You know, you may disagree with me, but, you know, the fans dictate who's number 1, number 2, number 3, not your bank account. I beg to differ. Tony Khan has a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, I don't just mean a lot of money. His family is one of the richest families in the entire freaking world. He is backed by a billionaire, that being his father. Tony himself is a billionaire himself. Tony is actually a fan of this business, is a fan of this business. I'm not saying that Carlos Silva is not a fan, but like he's not well experienced in wrestling. But I will say Carlos Silva is a great talking head for TNA, and that's great. And look, a lot of the stuff that he stated in his interviews with like Ariel Helwani and stuff, I enjoy those interviews. I think Carlos Silva is great. And I'm happy that TNA is experiencing all of the success that they are experiencing. But if you are looking at things from a factual standpoint, TNA is nowhere near, even if they do get that television deal, with whatever network that they have, they are not going to be number 2, unfortunately. I hate to break it to you, but that is cold, hard facts. They can go on the CW, A&E, FS1, whatever. Just because they have a larger television distribution platform, can it cause competition for AEW? Absolutely. Absolutely. But in terms of the revenue that TNA is generating compared to the revenue that AEW is generating, bro, it's like apples and oranges. TNA, they were number 2. They were number 2 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And you could even say 10 years ago, they were falling on the number 3 spot because they were losing money left and right. But Santino is saying the fans dictate who's number 1, number 2, number 3, not your bank account. I beg to differ. Tony Khan does have a lot of money, but he's also a fan. Look at their pay-per-view numbers. Look at their attendance for pay-per-views. Everybody loves talking about attendance for AEW shows. Oh, they're moving to smaller venues for their weekly TV, but TNA is moving to larger venues. Yes, when they move to larger venues, how long did it take them to reach 8,000 people? Keep in mind, TNA has been a promotion that has existed since the year 2002. I was born in the year 2002. They've existed for well over 20 years. And it took them 20 freaking years to pack 8,000 people in a major arena in the United States. 20 years. 20 freaking years it took for TNA to fill 8,000 people to beat their largest attended show in 10 years prior, that being Slammiversary 20. No, it was not. No, it was Lockdown 2013. It was in the Alamo Dome, which was ironically a stadium, but they didn't fill up the whole Alamo Dome. It was only a quarter of the Alamo, not even a quarter of the Alamo Dome. It was literally in the corner if you looked at the seating charts. Go look up TNA Lockdown 2013 Alamo Dome seating charts on Google. You're going to laugh. But it took TNA well over 20 plus years to fill 8,000 seats. 8,000 seats in an arena that fills almost 20,000 seats. Well over little to 20,000 seats, which is the UBS arena. AEW filled in well over that 8,000 mark last year with Forbidden Door. AEW outsold WWE during their peak in 2021. They outsold WWE with a Dynamite back in 2021. That is actually a very real story. It took 20 years for TNA to fill in 8,000 seats at the UBS Arena. Something that they could have never done, unfortunately. If you were to ask a TNA fan 20 years ago, and every time when we talk about who's number one, who's number two, or who's number three, AEW or TNA, I always bring this question up. I always bring this question up. I always bring this question up. If you were to tell a TNA fan in 2006, I mean, they just got on Spike in 2005, but in 2006, that the only way that you are able to gain notoriety is to partner with your biggest competitor, that being WWE, that being selling your soul to WWE, they probably would laugh in my face. They probably would laugh in my face. But if you look at the nature of this WWE and TNA partnership, that is exactly what it is. WWE, and look, I'm not saying that this whole partnership with WWE has been successful for TNA. It's benefited TNA greatly. I'm not denying that at all. Nobody's denying that. I'm not denying that. I'm happy for TNA's success. It's great. But let's look at the grander scheme of things. Let's look at what's actually going on. WWE is playing TNA for a fiddle. In a couple of years, Anthem is going to sell them off. They are going to sell them off, unfortunately. That's what's going to happen. And WWE is going to dictate whether or not they want to keep TNA a promotion or not. And by the looks of it now, in this current era, they probably will. Because look what they're doing with AAA. And it was smart that they bought AAA. If you really think about it, it was really smart on WWE's end. But in a couple of years, TNA is going to be under the assets of World Wrestling Entertainment. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And it's a bad look for wrestlers because then they lose more jobs. And it limits the amount of options that all of these professional wrestlers want to go to. It limits their options of where to sign, of where to go. You know, TNA as it stands right now is a distant number 3. They are a distant number 3. And that's a pretty good spot for them. It's not a bad spot. Wrestling needs a number 3, in my opinion. Wrestling needs a number 3 promotion. And TNA is that number 3. TNA is that number 3. But let's not deny that WWE is using TNA as a fiddle, as a little puppet, because that's what's going on. Apparently the contract details, apparently one of the, I don't recall whether or not it was Meltzer, and look, again, take Meltzer with a grain of salt, but apparently, I think that was what Meltzer stated. One of the clauses in the contracts is that they have first dibs in buying TNA. They have first dibs in buying TNA. Correct me if I'm wrong if Meltzer was the one that stated this. And look, again, take Meltzer with a grain of salt because he tends to get things wrong as well. But WWE has first dibs in purchasing TNA. First bids in making TNA or buying TNA. And they have the right of first refusal to deny any ongoing sale with any other party for TNA. If that is not one-sided, I do not know what is. I do not know what is. TNA is being used as a fiddle. You got Dave Meltzer out here saying that, WWE wants to control the number 2 spot. That makes literally no sense. If WWE owned TNA, in my opinion, wouldn't be considered the number 2 promotion because it's under WWE. You know, it's a WWE-owned property at that point. I consider a number 2 a non-WWE entity. That's what I consider number 2. Money talks. Again, Santino Marella might be the nicest guy, but I have to vastly disagree with him. He says fans dictate who's number 1, number 2, and number 3. Yes, that's subjective. I agree. But then he says, not your bank account. I beg to differ. Because WWE is a company that has shown time and time again their true colors. And they care about one thing and one thing only, and that is money. TNA is partnering they are partnering with the number 1 promotion in the entire industry. And they care about one thing, and that promotion cares one thing and one thing only, and that is money. AEW makes more money in a year, or in my opinion, I'm going to be brutally honest, AEW makes more money in the year than TNA did in the last 5. That's just cold hard facts right there. AEW is the true number 2 promotion. End off. That's cold hard facts in my opinion. Cold hard facts. That is cold hard facts. I don't know why people are still talking about TNA being the number 2 promotion. You got guys like Eric Bischoff saying TNA can surpass AEW. That is a joke. Dude, if TNA gets this new TV deal, which I think they will, and by any stretch of the means they would beat AEW in the ratings, AEW would still be the number 2 promotion. Because it's not all about just the ratings. How many times AEW beat NXT? Granted, it's NXT, it's a third-tier WWE show, but it's still a WWE show. How many times did AEW beat NXT? Did AEW take the number 1 spot? No. They will never be number 1. Never. Never in a million years. And if you are a fan that thinks AEW will be the number 1 promotion, you are the laughing stock of the entire wrestling fan base. And honestly, I don't know who would take your opinion seriously. That's just me. That's my opinion. But still, TNA is not going to take AEW's spot as number 2. It's a joke. It's laughable. It's laughable. It's really laughable in my opinion. Ridiculously laughable. Speaking of TNA, NXT and TNA, they announced their Invasion show. And yes, they got the original Invasion logo from 2001. I like that. NXT and TNA have been at odds for some time now, with each members of each promotion going over the fence. And, of course, Trick Williams and Kalani Jordan are the top men's and women's champions for TNA right now. I'm reading this from Cage Side Seats. They have announced a show called Invasion, which will take place on Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 on the CW, which will feature Survivor Series-style elimination matches in the form of 5 versus 5 in both men's and women's divisions. Of course, we also got Dark State taking on the Hardy Boys in a winner-take-all match. So I assume the Hardy Boys are going to win the NXT Tag Team Championships and hold both the NXT and TNA Tag Team Championships. Also, on that same night, of course, they're going head-to-head with AEW with Title Tuesday. And AEW announced their first ever women's Blood and Guts match. It's not like official, but Jamie Hayter made the call. She made the challenge. Masha Slamovich has been in hot water recently, and there's a lot of allegations against Masha Slamovich. I'm not really going to talk about this a lot, but it's something that I'm going to briefly talk about. Masha Slamovich, I'm reading this, by the way, from Vice's website. They kind of summarized the whole thing. Masha Slamovich has released a statement following abuse accusations brought to light earlier this week. Tuesday, Slamovich was accused of mental and physical abuse towards her former partner. A user on X who's friends with deathmatch wrestler Akira shared a Dropbox file on Tuesday that includes several screenshots of text messages allegedly between himself and Masha Slamovich. And I don't want to read some of the comments because to me that's just, it's ridiculous. It's horrible. Horrible stuff right there. But Masha Slamovich actually wrote a response, and she actually mentioned everything that was going on. She stated this, and I quote, "Up until the beginning of this year, I was in a toxic and mutually destructive relationship," Slamovich wrote. "We hurt each other deeply and, in private moments, failed to treat each other with the consideration and respect we both deserve. I take responsibility for my actions, and I am sorry, embarrassed, and ashamed of the role that I played in our relationship and the way things turned out." In addition, Slamovich claimed to have taken steps to deal with conflict in more mature, healthier, and sustainable ways. "In the time since I have sought help to reflect on this time and deal with conflict in more mature, healthier, and sustainable ways, I apologize to those I let down, including my former partner. I hope he's able to heal. This will be my only statement on this matter." As of writing, Masha Slamovich has been pulled from several upcoming wrestling dates, including her appearance at Prestige Wrestling and West Coast Pro. The Takedown on Sports Illustrated reports that TNA has launched an internal investigation into Masha Slamovich. Additionally, Fightful Select reports that Slamovich's contract with TNA is due to expire relatively soon. Masha Slamovich has garnered interest all over the wrestling world, including in WWE. She has popped up in NXT several times since the partnership with TNA became official. And yeah, this is not looking good for Masha Slamovich. If anything, this actually makes Masha Slamovich look really bad. This is a horrible. All those things that she's being accused of is really horrible, in my opinion. And honestly, at this point, we're in a situation where we do not know what's true or what's not true. But at the end of the day, from what it looks like, what Masha is stating in her statement that she put out, I feel like it's her taking responsibilities for the things that she has done. But honestly, this is a situation that's very serious, and again, it makes Masha Slamovich look really, really bad in the process. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens. We do not know if more information is going to come out regarding this whole situation with Masha Slamovich, but Masha Slamovich has really been in deep water throughout the past couple of days. All right. And from what it looks like, that's going to be it for the WrestleHavoc podcast for Sunday, September 28th, 2025. We definitely talked about a lot regarding a slow week, I should say, in terms of professional wrestling. It was a very, 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 very slow week. I'm going to be honest. Very slow week. Not a lot of stuff going on, but it is what it is. And that was episode 22 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. As always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.